Hey, wait a minute. Do you have a second? Let's talk about time. Not time as a measurement. Let's talk about time in English expressions used every day. For a split second, I'll be with you in a minute. It will take just a couple of minutes. On the hour, people often want to avoid rush hour and happy hour. And yes, happy hour is often more than 1 hour. Someday he wants to get married. The very day that I went there, the shop was closed. If you've bought food, prepared meals, served the meals, talked to people, danced, and generally socialized a lot, you might well say, it's been a long day. We can call it a day. Today, we're going to learn how to use these measurements of time in conversation, just like a native English speaker. Can be tricky. Why? These words are defined in the dictionary as precise measurements of time. However, the precise meaning can change into something not quite the same, different, or very different when we use the words in expressions and phrases. We're going to look at how people use these words in conversation and what they really mean when they are talking. Let's start with a second. A second is a very small amount of time that we can measure on a stopwatch. Did you ever, as a child, measure seconds by saying long words? I did, and my favourite word was hippopotamus. I'd count seconds like this: 1 hippopotamus, 2 hippopotamus, and so on. Which words did you use for counting seconds when you were a child? I'd love to know. Write them into the comments section below so that we can all see them. Let's look at how we can use a second in conversation when it takes on a slightly different meaning. The expression "in a second" does not usually mean in exactly 1 second. If I say to you, "I'll be with you in a second," then I will join you very soon, probably in a few minutes. Perhaps I need to finish something before I give you my attention, and it might sound a bit like this. "I'm here, hurry up." "Okay, I'll be with you in a second. I just need to find my phone." You just need to be patient. I'll be there very soon. What about the expression, "Do you have a second?" When someone asks you, "Do you have a second?" they are asking if you can help them with something, usually right then, immediately. If you answer yes, then you'll stop what you're doing, help them, and then go back to what you were doing. Please understand that whatever the person needs help with, it will take more than 1 second to do. You can also ask them what they need help with, so you can judge how much time it will take. When they ask, "Do you have a second?" you can answer with the question, "What for?" or more politely, "How can I help you?" What about the expression, "It will only take a second"? "It will only take a second" is used to indicate that a task, an action, activity won't take long to do. It can be useful to persuade you to do something. For example, "Please like this video. It will only take a second." Thank you. Lastly, we know that a second is a very short amount of time, and a split second is a very, very short amount of time, like half a second. If a second is like 1 hippopotamus, a split second is like 1 hippo. Let's imagine that you hear some good news, and you might say, "For a split second, I was stunned, and then I screamed with delight." Stunned, of course, meaning very surprised, like speechless. A dictionary definition of our next word, minute, is that a minute is exactly 60 seconds. Fine. How do we use a minute when talking? Well, a minute can be used in conversation just like a second to mean a small amount of time. "I'll be with you in a minute." "Do you have a minute?" "It will only take a minute." As you can see, we can replace second with minute and the expressions still have the same meaning, a small amount of time. However, although we talk about a split second, we do not talk about a split minute. We say, "For a split second I was stunned." We don't say, "For a split minute I was stunned," because it just doesn't sound right when you hear it. Here are some more common expressions using minute. The expression "this minute" generally means now or immediately, and sometimes you use it like this when you get annoyed. "Come here this minute." And if your mom says, "Come here this minute," it's a good idea to do that immediately. What about the expression, wait a minute? Wait a minute is often a way to ask someone to wait patiently. For example, you might be asked to please wait a minute when you arrive for an interview. You might need to wait a minute because the interviewer is busy with another candidate. Your turn will come. When someone says, please wait a minute, or would you mind waiting a minute, you usually need to wait as long as necessary. More than a minute, probably several minutes, or even more. Wait a minute can also be a way of letting people know that you have something to say. Using wait a minute first is a bit like an introductory drum roll. For example, wait a minute. I have an idea. Why not share this video with your friends? Did you do it? Thanks. What about the expression, just a couple of minutes? When someone uses this expression, you can expect more than 2 minutes. This will take just a couple of minutes usually means that it will take at least several minutes. The exact amount of time isn't known. For example, someone might want you to do a survey with them and say, it will take just a couple of minutes. They know it will take longer. You know it will take longer. I mean, it can take 2 minutes just to give your name and address. I think just a couple of minutes is a nice expression. It's a nice way to minimize the amount of time that will be needed to do something. When getting ready to go out, how many of us say, I'll be ready in just a couple of minutes, when we know it may be 10 to 15 minutes before we're ready? An hour, as we know, is 60 times 1 minute, as there are 60 minutes in an hour, and we can measure an hour precisely on a clock or a watch. And how do we use hours in everyday conversation? Here are a few common ways of using hour when talking. The expression on the hour means at the beginning of an hour or something repeating at the beginning of each hour. Trains to London leave on the hour between 7 and 10 o'clock. Trains to London leave at 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock and 10 o'clock. Usually, on the hour is quite strict, so don't be late to catch a train that leaves on the hour. Better to be there a bit early, actually. The expression every hour means that something happens each time an hour passes. She checks her emails every hour means that once an hour, she looks at her emails, but not necessarily at the same time each hour. And by the way, if you'd like to know more about using a clock in conversation, then please take a look at our o'clock video, link in the description below. Lastly, when you hear someone use the expression within the hour, they mean something will happen in less than an hour. I'll be back within the hour means that I'm leaving now and will return before an hour passes. The hour starts ticking at the time you say, I'll be back within an hour. You might also hear people chatting about rush hour and happy hour, and these are quite specific terms. Rush hour is when everyone seems to be commuting, so usually going to work at the beginning of the day or returning from work in the evening. And although rush usually means going fast, being in a hurry, rush hour is often when you move slowly, the opposite of rushing. It's common to hear people say things like, let's leave early to avoid rush hour, or let's leave later so we avoid rush hour. People often want to avoid rush hour because it's just no fun getting stuck in traffic. And happy hour is the time that a bar or restaurant is offering drinks at half price or two drinks for the price of one. And yes, happy hour is often more than 1 hour, same as rush hour is often more than 1 hour. And there's no guarantee that you will be happy in happy hour, same as there's no guarantee that you will rush in rush hour. We've used a second, a minute, and an hour in conversation. Now let's look at how to use a day. And we all know that a day is 24 hours, midnight to midnight, and includes morning, afternoon, evening, and night. So if the definition of a day is 24 hours, does the word change meaning? in casual everyday conversation? Well, here are 5 expressions people use when talking when the word day isn't strictly the dictionary definition. The first expression, someday, means at an unknown time in the future. See you someday soon means that we will meet in the future. We don't know which day we will meet, just someday in the future. And when we do meet, it won't be for a day necessarily. We could meet for a couple of minutes or a couple of hours, for example. And someday he wants to get married means that in the future he hopes to get married. He doesn't know when he will get married or who he will marry, just that he will become a husband one day, hopefully. And the second expression, the very day, means the exact or actual day and is used for emphasis. For example, I'm talking to my friend about going to a particular shop and I say, the very day that I went there, the shop was closed. Using the expression the very day lets me highlight how extraordinary it was for me that the day I decided to visit the shop, it was closed. The third expression, spend the day, is to pass some time either in a place or doing something. And it doesn't have to be a full day or 24 hours. It may be most of the day or a large part of the day. If someone says to me that we will spend the day walking, I'd understand that we will be walking during daylight only. We wouldn't be walking for 24 hours non-stop. The fourth expression, a long day, mostly applies to a very active day. You've probably been very busy during a long day. For example, it can be a long day after you have entertained guests. And someone asks you, how was your day? You might well say, it's been a long day. And you're probably happy that the day's ending after all you've been doing. Just occasionally, a long day can be a day without much happening. Time goes slowly. It can be a long day when you're waiting for a phone call that never happens. And when someone asks how your day went, you might also answer that you had a good day, things have gone well, or a bad day, things haven't gone well. Using the expression, I'm having a bad hair day, is a variant of having a bad day. It's a fun way of saying things aren't going well. A bad hair day is like when your hair isn't doing what you want it to do. So instead of a nice, smooth day, you have a disappointing, messy day, for example, with a bad hair day. And here are 2 more short expressions with day that you might hear in everyday conversation. Make my day. And this is a challenge to do something to make the day better. It doesn't have to be a big thing. I might say, make my day, tell me something nice. Or subscribe to this channel and make my day. Done it? Thank you. And then there is the expression, call it a day. This expression means let's stop doing something even if we haven't finished it. We've been working enough. Let's call it a day. Means that it's time to stop working. We've worked enough today. And yes, we could continue talking about these 4 words in conversation, but I think that if you like this video, ding the notification bell and subscribe if you're new to the channel, then we can call it a day. That's it for this video. Anyway, take care and see you in the next one. Goodbye.